Quite a very busy week it's been. It's going to be busy all through to the end of the week. But let's get a bit of a sense of how we started the week, and we're still on that. President Buhari signed on into the finance bill, put it into act. The finance minister, as we speak this morning, sent out a number of tweets, a thread, as it were, has been called on social media, explaining how the new Finance Act will work and the intention of the government. Part of what the finance minister have set out is that consequently, and moving forward, Nigeria will present every year's budget under the Buhari's administration with a finance bill attached to it. So we now have it confirmed that the finance bill, which was presented last year by Mr. President, is the first, and there will be others for 2021 budget and moving forward. And what all that means, you can go and find it out on the Twitter handle of the finance minister, who is providing more clarity, as we said here on the show yesterday, on the new Finance Act 2020. The Nigerian Stock Exchange had also be doing some briefing regarding what to expect in the new year, in particular the critical issue of demutualization, which the Stock Exchange has spent close to 21 years trying to put in place. Now it looks like this is the final lap. Part of what Oscar Onyema, the head of the NSE, explained to the media on Monday. Take a listen.
If you look at what has already happened at the beginning of this year, where we're seeing an up market, that has been accompanied by a significant increase in velocity. So I think that the culture here is that velocity tends to increase when the market is going up. And we just need to do a better job of educating investors around the fact that even in a down market, there are opportunities to make money, including from securities lending and short selling, and appropriate stock picking, because there are quite a number of individual stocks that did well in 2019. The other comment you raised about addressing float question, I think by and large we've addressed the float question by looking at the premium board and removing a percentage threshold and putting an absolute naira amount. And we're currently looking at seeing if such an approach would make sense for the main board. On the growth board, we haven't launched it yet, but the rules have been approved, and you will see that what we've tried to do there is to focus on assisting fast-growing companies achieve their growth objectives. And so the emphasis on float is there, but it's not the primary thing. So we'll continue to have these discussions, and we're very open to new ways to address the free float issues. I should also say that in setting our free float parameters, we benchmarked against other markets around the globe, including the very liquid markets. And there are different ways to do it. We believe the way we've done it is appropriate for the level of development of the market. Excuse me. On enforcement, as you know, the exchange is a self-regulatory organization, and while we have a number of tools in our tool kit to address infractions from an enforcement perspective, we have to work in partnership with the Securities and Exchange Commission and the EFCC to address other aspects of enforcement where our powers are limited to do that. So those engagements are very well defined, and we continue to meet with them on a regular basis and refer cases to them on a regular basis. Information, I think we've really ramped up on information disclosure, especially around the use of technology to disseminate information. We believe that where we continue to struggle is on education. You know, we have about 200 million people in the country, and and from a national perspective, education continues to be a challenge. And reaching out to people in the way they like to be communicated to, be it from a language perspective or a channel perspective, is something that we're really working hard to address. The release calendar, we've worked on release calendar. We've even automated the process. And all of these are in X-Issuer 2 platform. Stay tuned. I think that you'll see improvements in 2020. It's actually been significant work has gone into that. The question about whether in a demutualized context, brokers can become president of the exchange. Let me address the question in this way. With demutualization, the corporate structure of the exchange will actually change. So you will not have presidents anymore. You will have boards of directors and chairmen. And I think that the way the MEMATs have been structured, it does not limit, it does not prescribe any particular category of persons to be chairman of the board. So that's the way the thinking is going right now. Press and investors. Yes, you're key stakeholders, and you will recall that when we were going through the legislation process to get the demutualization bill enacted into law, we had several sessions in Abuja and in Lagos with the press to enlighten them and pass information around what we're doing with regards to demutualization. Now that we've seen the no objection letter, which we just got in December, we're now putting in place final touches to have the court order meeting and the EGM. And in the lead up to that, there will be significant engagement with investors, with the press, with our primary constituents, the brokers and other members of the exchange and the general public. So there's a very robust plan already in place for that, and you'll see that roll out in the lead up to the EGM. Otuabasi, the question on growth board. The growth board rules have been approved. The structure is in place. We did not launch because we wanted to launch with a listing. We're also looking to continue to improve on that growth board to address questions around how do you help early stage companies come to market, even if it is not in a full public market context. We hope that this year there will be companies that can list on that board, and then we'll launch it with those listings. With regards to hackathon, we want to make it a yearly event. As you know, there are two objectives for us with the hackathon. The first one is to uncover these bright ideas that are solving specific problems. And then the second one is for us to actually invest in them and help them to accelerate their development and bring those products to market faster. And that investment is usually in the form of a seed amount of money that we put in, but we also host them in our facilities and work with them to accelerate. So this year, last year, we had 3 companies that we selected, and we're already working with them. And this year, we intend to have another hackathon to address a different question. It may not be the same question. In 2019, what we're trying to address is how do you access millennials? These 3 platforms have different perspectives to addressing that question. So in 2020, we have not decided yet what the question will be that we're trying to solve. And then the Africa Exchange Linkage project. That project is very much alive and well. We were in Botswana late last year, where the chairman of Ashon signed on behalf of the Nigerian brokers. There is now an association of African brokers. You know, the bedrock of the Africa Exchange Linkage project is going to be the brokers. Brokers having partnerships across border and being able to transmit orders amongst themselves to execute in the home country. We also have a pot of money that has been made available by the Africa Korea Fund in partnership with the Africa Development Bank, and we're working with them to, we've hired a project manager based in Nairobi to put in place all the structures from a technology perspective to rules to the operating model and the rest of it. So that effort is very much underway, and we hope to see the very first trades come across that linkage in the very near future.
The head of the Nigerian Stock Exchange, Oscar Onyema, providing some insights into 2019, but more importantly, outlook for 2020, speaking specifically there about demutualization and the new Africa Linkage project for ASEA. So from markets to mining, the Honorable Minister in charge of Mines and Steel, Adibute, spent some time yesterday to speak about the industry which the current administration has been focusing on diversifying Nigeria from hydrocarbon, which is basically crude oil, into mining and steel. So what did the minister have to say regarding his 4 months in office and President Buhari's reform agenda within the industry, but very specifically the problem of artisanal mining and why big mining firms are finding it difficult to do business in Nigeria, and if new reforms being put in place will really bring Dutch companies and their deep pockets of investments. Take a listen.
Since the big players left, have been predominantly artisanal. What do you call artisanal miners? These are people who mostly met their parents, their forebears doing mining. The way it is, minerals occur in Nigeria in abundance. Everywhere in Nigeria, you find one thing or the other. So most of these people are people who just till the ground, not going so deep. They find some minerals, they sell at that raw form, and of course, make their subsistence living. And then they go back and the cycle continues. These kind of people are not formalized. Government does not realize anything from them. Because of the protocol internationally, we often heard, oh, Nigeria is the largest exporter of tin, second largest exporter of tin. How do we know? Because the source must be established where you export to. So Malaysia will tell us, Thailand will tell us, Nigeria is the second largest producer. But government has nothing to show for it. So what do? We need formal mining in Nigeria. And how do you do that? You need to bring the right investors in to come and do mining in Nigeria. And that's what we're trying to do. We go out to different fora. We have them in the UK, Mines and Money. You have in Daba in South Africa, African Down Under in Australia. You have the Taiwan, you have PDAC in Canada, and so on and so forth. Essentially, miners all over the world gather at this different forum. This is where I will go to sell Nigeria's potential to them. Nigeria has this, Nigeria has that. So a lot of effort has been going on. At this point, I must acknowledge efforts of my predecessors in office, who've been going out there to showcase what Nigeria has. We've got to a point now that almost everybody in the mining industry all over the world are aware that Nigeria has minerals. Yeah, we have minerals. But the foreign investors are shy of the risk involved. They are shy of the risk. They want to be sure that when they come into Nigeria, it will be profitable for them. And of course, they can make their money quickly. What are we doing to de-risk the sector? Nigerian government is invested in exploration. Prior to my coming to office, Mr. President Muhammadu Buhari, released a sum of money from the Natural Resources Fund to the ministry. We call it Intervention Fund. The sum of 30 billion naira was released to the ministry. I think this was in 2017, 2018. Out of this, almost half, about 15 billion, has been committed to a project we call NIMEP. This is an exploration project where 7 strategic minerals have been selected for the country. These are coal, bitumen, limestone, iron ore, barite, gold, and lead. These minerals are the 7 strategic minerals that were identified at that time that we needed to promote for the investors to come in. Now, these 7 strategic minerals are being explored where they occur. What are we trying to do with this NIMEP project? Is to establish data such that we'll present this data to the investors. You know, oh, we've got gold in this area, and that's the extent, maybe at this depth, and you know, reasonably we can tell them the quantum of the minerals there. Basically, this is what the NIMEP project is doing, and it's a good investment. This is the project that I started even before I came into office, but we should have in the final data results very soon. We're looking at the end of first quarter of this year to have the final result. Thank you. With this data, we'll stand better chance to convince our will-be investors to come into Nigeria and come and build on this data that we've done. They will need to do just a little more work to get to the bankable stage. In essence, de-risking the sector for them. We are telling them and reassuring them that, look, this mineral exists at this location, at this depth, and this is the extent, you know. So this will reassure the investors to come into Nigeria. I must say at this point, the 7 strategic minerals are being reviewed because they are so-called minerals of the future, like cobalt, lithium, titanium. Everybody is going electric vehicles. What batteries do they use? Lithium batteries. Nigeria has got lithium in great abundance. So there will come a time when petrol will no longer be the fad. Everybody will be looking for lithium to build batteries for electric vehicles. We've got coltan, we've got cobalt. These are elements, minerals that are used in your telephone, as you have it there, in television. All electronic products use these minerals. So we are extending our strategic minerals to include these minerals of the future. And that's where we're going. We are getting good results because these minerals do exist in abundance, and we've caught the interest of these investors.
Olamilekan Adegbite, the Honorable Minister in charge of Mines and Steel, providing his first briefing in the new year 2020. When we come back, the stock market, FBN Holdings gives notice of closed period, which starts today for its 2019 full-year statement, and the shares taking a nosedive. Boa Cement is also getting a bit of a knockoff this morning. Some profit taking on our market street in 2 minutes.